Hi, I'm Sylvia and welcome to my channel. Today I'm speaking about Pluto in the 8th house in the birth chart. But before I get started, if you like my video, if you like my content and you want to learn more about astrology, then you can always feel free to subscribe to my channel. And now going back to our topic, Pluto in the 8th house. Pluto, just like any other planet in astrology, can have a higher manifestation, but it can also have a lower manifestation in our birth chart. And I'm going to start with the higher manifestation of Pluto in your 8th house. If you have Pluto in the 8th house, then you are a natural psychologist, or you was just born with a higher understanding or a deeper understanding of the human psychology, and you can really understand very deeply the human nature, even the more or the darker part of the human nature. So it is very easy for you to understand and to know what lies underneath the surface. You can very easily see what motives are behind someone's actions or someone's words. And you just don't need to spend a lot of time with people in order to really know them. Because, for example, let's say you just meet someone for the very first time and you don't need to spend a lot of time with that person, and you already know who that person truly is. Basically, you can read a person, or you can read someone's psychological nature very easily. You might not always show it. You might sometimes pretend like you don't really know who you're dealing with, but actually you know exactly what kind of person someone is. It's like you can very easily create in your head like a psychological profile of other people. And you can very easily sense and notice even the weaknesses of other people. And that's because, like I said before, you can also see or understand even the darker part of the human nature. And you can also very easily sense the talents of other people. Generally speaking, you can be a very good psychologist or psychotherapist. You can, if you want, and it's very possible that you might be attracted to that. And of course, you can also study psychology. And psychotherapy can be a great career for you because you can work with people who go through, let's say, some traumatic events, or people who have been abused. And it can be any kind of abuse. You are very good at making people understand themselves better. And you can also be, for example, a very good, let's say, policeman, if you want. Like, you can, let's say, investigate a case of murder, or you can investigate a case of sex trafficking, let's say. And this is because you are a very good, you can investigate and go very deep into things. And you can also be a very good spy, you can be a very good detective, or you can be, let's say, a very good journalist who investigates, let's say, cases of corruption done by the government. And you are very good at finding secrets. And you can really be very good at, for example, at research. Um, you could be, for example, a scientist who does some research regarding, let's say, the human DNA or the human genome, for example. Or you can be a very good surgeon, let's say. And this is because, like I said before, it's all about your ability to dig very deep and to find all the pieces of the puzzle. And you are very good into discovering mysteries or secrets. People who have Pluto in the 8th house can experience some traumatic events. For example, like they might lose someone who they love, or they can go through bankruptcy, or any other kind of traumatic event, or they can experience abuse and I'm talking here about any kind of abuse, whether it's emotional abuse, psychological abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, or abuse of power. And they might even hit rock bottom. They might look like they are done, like their life is over, and yet they do find the inner strength and the willpower to move on with their lives. They know how to get over these traumatic events that they have. And this is also because, like I said before, they can dig very deeply into their emotions and feelings and traumas, anxieties, fears. And somehow they do manage to regenerate themselves. They are the kind of people who can transform themselves and become a better version of themselves. People from an external point of view, they might think that they are done, it's over for them, and yet somehow they can have, like I said before, this inner strength to rebuild themselves, even if it might look that they are destroyed and life have put them in so much difficulties. They have the power to and even wisdom to become a better version of themselves, and they become stronger. They become more intelligent, wiser. And this is actually the best ability that someone with Pluto in the 8th house can have. And this is the fact that they can experience like a rebirth. And even if they hit rock bottom, they somehow manage to come stronger, wiser, and even a cooler person, I can say. And this is an ability that not many people can actually have, but they do learn so much from their hardship, and they can learn so much about themselves to the point where they really can achieve victory later on in their lives. So they really have this great ability to turn their pain and their traumas into their strongest personality trait. They can turn their pain and trauma into wisdom, into willpower, and into inner strength. And this is why they manage to somehow be victorious, even if they have gone through so much. And actually, you know, there's that old saying, what doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. I think that saying was made for them, definitely, because it really resonates with people who have Pluto in the eighth house. Okay, now let's speak about the lower manifestation of Pluto in the eighth house. Of course, it also depends on what aspects your Pluto makes, and also what sign it is in. And of course, you have to take into consideration your whole chart. You cannot judge someone based only on one placement in their birth chart. But what I've noticed is that a lot of politicians and a lot of influential people can have Pluto in the eighth house. Why is that? Well, it's very simple actually. People who have Pluto in the eighth house can be very drawn to power and to control. They want to have power in our society. They want to have control over other people. And of course, they are going to seek to have some very high positions in our society. Now, Pluto in the eighth house can also mean that the way that you make money can be a bit hidden, or you can have some unorthodox ways of making money, or you just might have some illegal businesses or make money in some illegal, suspicious ways. And Pluto in the eighth house can also mean that you can make money by just by exploiting other people, uh, or you can use your power to abuse other people, or you can use your power to exploit other people. Another interpretation of Pluto in the eighth house is that you can have a very powerful and very strong sexual drive and sexual desires, sexual urges, to the point where it's very difficult for you to control your sexuality. This Pluto in the eighth house can mean that your sexuality is like on steroids. And many times, people who have this placement can have sexual obsessions, or they can have, let's say, their sexuality, or their the sex that they have is a bit more, let's say, different from what other people do. And I'm not going to get very specific, I'm not going to get into details of what this actually means, but I think you do understand what I'm trying to say. So they can also have uh, sex addictions, for example. So they really cannot, or they can find it very difficult to have control over their sexuality and their sexual desires. Another thing about Pluto in the eighth house is that they sometimes can manipulate other people or use other people to their advantage. And this is because, like I said before, they can have a very deep and profound understanding of the human nature. And if, for example, if they sense that you have some weaknesses, they can use those weaknesses against you in some way, or they can be very good at blackmailing, for example. Of course, these are the more negative expressions of Pluto in the 8th house. But like I said before, you have to check the whole birth chart. You cannot just say that any person who has Pluto in the 8th house is going to be like that. So I really hope you enjoyed my video, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.